and welcome to NutriLife. This is our second episode, really, and it is just an opportunity for you to be aware of what exactly you're putting in your mouth, what exactly you're adding to your body, what exactly you're doing in terms of taking care of yourself as a human being. My name is Naomi. I'm joined in studio by Kim Otteby. Good morning, Kim. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Good to be here, Naomi.
Mm-hmm. The cold is not affecting you at all?
Well, it's cold, but I will say I jumped in the pool this morning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're very dedicated.
Because it makes me feel so good. That's the only reason.
Wow.
It ain't easy, I will add. It ain't easy, but I feel amazing. And I want to be really on it, fresh for the show this morning as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, we appreciate that. Now, we're going to be talking about sugar and how it is sweet, but very deadly as well. So what's the big deal with sugar? Isn't it just like, a good source of energy?
It is a source of energy, absolutely. Sugar, it's a carbohydrate. And we have three main sources of energy: carbohydrates, fat, and protein, right? So yes, you're absolutely right. It's a source of energy. But what we have to look at is, where is our sugar coming from? So is it coming from natural fruits and vegetables? Or is it coming from processed foods where it's been added? So where is our sugar coming from? And very importantly, how much are we eating of it? That's really, really key. Because when sugar is added to processed foods, then it really is empty calories. You see, when you eat sugar as part of a fruit, for instance, you're getting all the other good stuff that is in the fruit. So the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, the phytonutrients, all that good stuff also comes with it. But when you're eating processed foods with added sugar, this sugar, it's like empty calories, because there are no vitamins, there are no minerals. All of that has been stripped out of the food. And actually, for your body to process the sugar, it requires some of these nutrients, vitamins and antioxidants and so on, minerals. So when you eat very sugary food, processed foods with added sugar, you end up worse off nutritionally.
Do we really eat more sugar now than we did in the past, though?
Oh, yes, big time. So if we look back about 200 years or so, the 1800s, every person, on average, they were eating about a teaspoon of sugar per day, maybe a teaspoon and a half. So that adds up to about 2 kilos per year. Now, on average in the world, we eat 40 kilos of sugar per person per year. That's about 28 teaspoons per day. And it's worse in the US. They're eating 57 kilos of sugar every year, which is about 35 teaspoons of sugar per day. And sugar is also a problem here in Zambia. There is a real increase in how much sugar we're eating here as well, because we're eating more and more processed foods. We see our supermarkets filled with this kind of stuff now, just like in the rest of the world. And this is a particular problem also for younger people, for kids who are eating a lot of processed foods and soft drinks and so on. So it's a huge problem. We are eating a lot more than we actually think.
Okay. So if someone is listening today and they're saying, sugar is not a problem for me, I don't think it has any bad effects to my body, what kind of health effects are expected should you consume too much sugar, and what does it do to our bodies, really?
Yeah, it has a lot of negative effects on our bodies. But kind of like we were discussing in the last show, some of these effects, it takes a bit of time before you really realize it, because our bodies are so resilient. They can withstand a lot of damage before you start feeling it. But there is so much research now out there that shows us the harm that sugar does to our body. It truly is a poison. One, of course, and this probably a lot of people know, is that it causes insulin resistance, which then leads to diabetes, type 2 diabetes, which is very common these days, right? And there's one research study where they showed that if you drink like one soft drink a day, then your chances of getting diabetes increases by 1.1%. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but the thing is, most of us don't just drink one soft drink a day. We drink we drink many different things, but also we eat a lot of foods that have sugar in it. So there's a compounding effect there. So insulin resistance, diabetes, that's one issue. Then it's heart disease. Because sugar causes inflammation in our body. And inflammation is the cornerstone of pretty much every chronic illness, including heart disease. So inflammation, it also increases triglycerides in your blood, so blood fats and cholesterol, the bad cholesterol. And when it comes to heart disease, what they found is that if you eat more than 20 teaspoons of sugar a day, which remember I said earlier, on average in the world, we're eating 28 teaspoons of sugar per day. So most people are eating more than 20 teaspoons of sugar per day. And that increases your risk of dying from heart disease by 38%. Okay, that's just sugar, right? Then, of course, and this one people don't really realize as much, it affects our mental health. Sugar has been linked to anxiety, brain fog, depression. If you're eating more than 17 teaspoons of sugar a day, which most of us are, it increases your chance of getting depression by 23%. That's huge, right? Just eating sugar.
Yeah.
And then also a big one is, of course, our immune system. We suppress our immune function, the capacity of our white blood cells to function properly by 40% when we eat sugar. And that effect lasts for 5 hours after we've eaten sugar. And the thing with most of us, we eat sugar throughout the day, right? So effectively what we're doing, we're suppressing our immune system continuously. No wonder we're getting sick. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Now, you spoke a little bit about insulin resistance. Could you just explain what exactly that is?
Sure. Insulin, well, it's a whole cascade of events. But basically, when you eat a lot of sugar, or any sugar for that matter, your pancreas, an organ in your body, produces insulin, right? That insulin is what helps move the sugar from your blood into your cells. You can think of it as the key that unlocks the cells, basically opens the cells up so the sugar can go from the bloodstream into the cells. Because the body doesn't want the sugar in the bloodstream, right? That's not good. So it has to get it into the cells, where the cells use it to produce energy.
Okay.
Now, if you're eating a lot of sugar, then there's a lot of sugar that will hit your bloodstream fast. And the body really panics, and it tells the pancreas, you got to produce a lot of insulin here. We got to get rid of this sugar, get it into the cells. So the pancreas produces lots and lots of insulin. But what happens over time is that the cells say, enough, we have enough sugar, we don't need any more sugar. And they no longer respond to the insulin. They become resistant to the insulin. That's insulin resistance. Now, what happens then is, of course, the body panics and it just tells the pancreas, you need to produce even more insulin. The cells aren't listening here. So the pancreas keeps producing more and more insulin until it gets so tired, it's exhausted, and suddenly it cannot produce any insulin. And that's when you get diabetes. Now suddenly the pancreas can't do its job properly. But insulin, you can think of it as that pre-diabetic stage. And it's very, very common. And it has its own host of problems. So, for instance, when you have insulin resistance, because the sugar is not getting into the cells, you often feel tired, fatigue, and you get cravings for sugar.
Okay.
That's very common. You tend to gain a lot of weight as well, particularly around your midriff, around your stomach.
Yeah.
That's a telltale sign. And it feeds into heart disease, fatty liver, high blood pressure. So it's a real problem. And with insulin resistance, most people are unaware that they have it. Until they get diagnosed with heart disease or high blood pressure, or in the end, even diabetes.
Now, you spoke a little bit about the connection between, mental health and sugar, and how, someone can actually struggle with something like depression because of sugar intake. That sort of kind of makes it like a mood lifter. And then it becomes a little bit addictive, because then you want to have sugar so that your mood is lifted, and it's a consistent cycle. Is sugar actually really addictive? Because we obviously hear some people who joke about how they're addicted to sugar. Is that something that is actually scientifically founded?
Absolutely. It is such an addictive and such an addictive substance. I mean, I would class myself as a sugar addict, although I'm a recovering sugar addict. I've overcome it, but I know how addictive sugar can be. And it releases dopamine in the brain, which is your feel-good chemical, right? And what researchers found is that it lights up, when you eat sugar, it lights up the same areas in your brain as when you take cocaine. And we know how addictive cocaine is. And there's a really interesting study that they did at the University of Bordeaux in France, where they had rats and they had a lever in their cage. One lever gave them sugar water, and then another lever gave them cocaine. 94% of the time, the rats chose the sugar water over the cocaine. Even the rats that were already addicted to the cocaine would go for the sugar water instead. That's how addictive it is. So essentially what happens is that you take a lot of sugar, you get this massive hit of dopamine in your brain, right? You feel amazing, but then of course you crash. Now, your body in general, and particularly your brain, does not like these kind of spikes. It likes when everything's kind of stable in equilibrium. So what it does to protect itself, to get everything back into equilibrium, is that it downregulates. It basically reduces the amount of dopamine receptors in your brain. That means that now you have to eat more sugar to get the same response. And that's why it's so addictive, because you want to feel as good as you did last time. You remember that feeling. And that is classic addiction. That is how any addictive drug would work. So when you think, oh, it's so difficult to quit sugar, I have no willpower, and you're feeling really shitty about yourself, it's actually not about willpower. You are physically addicted. Your brain has been hijacked.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And so this is obviously multiplied for children, right? How does sugar affect their health and their development?
Well, yeah, because they got smaller bodies, and you know, so a hit of sugar would affect them much more than a full-grown adult. And we tend to give our kids a lot of sugar as well, right? So it affects their mood. It affects their focus, and we know, if anyone out there who's been around kids and they've given kids sugar, they go hyperactive, right? They're bouncing around. But then, of course, they also crash. So it really affects their mood, their focus. We're seeing more and more weight gain in kids. Child obesity is now a thing, you know, and that's very much to do with sugar as well. Then, of course, I spoke about how it affects our immune system. That's going to be a key factor in kids as well. They're not going to be as resistant to viruses and bacteria and such like. They'll get sick more often if they eat a lot of sugar. And then, of course, something we've known for a long time, our dental health, right? Kids get a lot more cavities. And now also in children as young as 10 years old, we are starting to see fatty liver, insulin resistance, even type 2 diabetes, which was unheard of before. That was just a disease you got in older age, in adults, right? We're starting to see that in kids as well. And that is down to the amount of sugar that we're eating and feeding them.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. But let's talk a little bit more about the difference between natural sugars and added sugars, because some people will say, or they will give, the excuse that, okay, so these fruits have sugar too, so that means that there's a good side of sugar. So what's the difference between the two?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there is a difference. When you eat a fruit, then you're eating the whole fruit, which will give you also the minerals, the vitamins, the phytonutrients, antioxidants, and very importantly, fiber. You're getting that fiber. And the fiber slows down the release of sugar that is in that fruit. So your blood sugar won't spike as much, right? But when we're eating processed foods, then that fiber has been taken away. It's been stripped out. So there's nothing slowing down the release of sugar in our body. Plus, we're not getting the vitamins and minerals and all that good stuff as well. So that's the main difference. But also, how likely is it that you're gonna sit down and eat 5 bananas? Are you really gonna binge on 5 bananas? That's quite hard to do. But it's super easy to drink like a can of soda, of soft drink. That's very easy. And you get a similar amount of sugar, you know? So we tend not to overeat natural foods with fiber, but processed foods where the fiber has been stripped and we've added sugar, it's very easy to overeat, and hence we eat a lot more sugar because of that. One thing I want to mention, because a lot of people think, oh, drinking fruit juice, that's healthy. That's a healthy option. I'm not drinking soft drinks. I'm choosing a fruit juice. And on the packet, it says no added sugar. I'm being good, right? But actually, yes, there is no added sugar in there, but you have all the fruit sugar. And fruit sugar is sugar. But what you've done now is that you have extracted that juice. You've removed all the fiber. So now you just have that sugar, which when you drink that fruit juice, it's going to hit your bloodstream hard and fast. So you got to be a little bit mindful there as well. So the key is eating natural foods that still have the fiber, because that will slow down the release of sugar in your body so that your sugar has time to deal with it.
Okay. Yeah. So actual fruit smoothies and fruit juices is better. Like if you can blend the juice or the apple or the banana, like make the smoothie at home, that's better than actually taking all of these other alternative fruit juices.
Absolutely, because you still have the fiber in there, and that will slow down the release of sugar. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So let's talk about processed foods. How much sugar is actually in our processed foods that we eat every single day?
More than we realize. Sugar, there's, I talk to people all the time and say, oh, I don't eat a lot of sugar. I don't add sugar to my coffee or tea, for instance. Yeah, but what other foods are you eating? Because most foods out there, particularly the processed foods, they're going to have a lot of sugar. So we're eating sugar without even realizing that we're eating sugar. It's hidden in our foods. But if we start first with something like a soft drink, a typical soft drink, a 500 milliliter soft drink, would contain between 10 and 14 teaspoons of sugar.
Wow.
And what I really would, like anyone with kids, a great thing to do with them is to take a soft drink so they see it, and then you get them to have a sugar bowl with a teaspoon and measure out 14 teaspoons of sugar so that they can really see how much that actually is. It is shocking how much sugar is in there. It really makes you think. Flavored yogurt, like a little cup, would have 6 teaspoons of sugar. Okay. Yeah, which is a lot. White bread. We often don't think, oh, white bread, that doesn't have sugar. But 2 slices of white bread would have 1 teaspoon of sugar. Wow. That's added sugar. So that doesn't even include all the carbohydrates that are naturally in the bread. Ketchup. Ketchup is a big one. So if you take 1 tablespoon of ketchup, you're getting 1 teaspoon of sugar in there. Yeah. If we look at a typical breakfast cereal, then it's about 5 teaspoons of sugar per cup of breakfast cereal, which is a small portion. Energy drinks, they tend to have around 7 teaspoons of sugar in them. And like a standard chocolate bar, like 25 grams, maybe 6 teaspoons of sugar. So there is a lot of sugar. And some of these things you think, oh, well, that doesn't sound too bad. But it adds up with what we eat throughout the day. It adds up, right? And we end up eating a lot more sugar than we actually think we are. Yeah.
I'm thinking of, people who have maybe 2 or 3 Coca-Colas or Fanta in a day, and then on top of that, probably they had breakfast, which was a cereal, and then, maybe some, like a sandwich, because they feel like, a sandwich is probably less carbs for me, but then you're adding, oh gosh, it's crazy. So sugar is everywhere, right? How do I avoid it? How do I realistically start cutting back on my sugar intake?
Well, yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. At Umoyo, every year we run a no sugar challenge, which is a 1-month thing where we encourage people to try going off sugar for 30 days. Can you go off sugar for 30 days? And it sounds like, that should be easy. But that's when we realize how addictive we actually are to it, you know, how much we're actually eating.
Yeah.
But that is something I would highly recommend anyone to do, you know, 30 days. But otherwise, you gotta start reading labels. You got to start educating yourself. Where is the sugar? What foods have sugar in it? And becoming a little bit savvy, because it doesn't always say sugar. Sometimes it might say dextrose or maltose or corn syrup or high fructose corn syrup. It can be different terms, but it's still sugar. So you got to educate yourself and start reading labels. Even foods where you really don't think that there could be any sugar in it, there probably is hidden sugar in there. Then I would say just cut the soft drinks. Cut the soft drinks. Drink water. Water. Flavor the water with a bit of lemon juice, or make herbal teas that you can then cool down. That's a beautiful drink as well, but cut the soft drinks. And then what are you snacking on? Because a lot of the time also the sugar comes in through our snacks during the day. What is that? Try and choose healthier snacks, you know, like nuts. Nuts would be great. Or if you like snacking on yogurt, then just the plain yogurt where you know there is no sugar in there. Also, just cooking at home, because a lot of the time when we eat out, fast food or even normal restaurant food, there is a lot of sugar in that food and you wouldn't have a clue. You don't know what the chef put in there. But if you're eating at home, you know exactly what you put in your food. And then gradually reduce the sweetness. So I said do a 30-day no sugar challenge. That can be quite tough for some people. But another alternative is just gradually to reduce it over time, you know, and basically change your taste buds. So that they don't require as much sugar.
Okay. But there are some people who would want to know, are there any healthy natural sweeteners that are in my foods that I can look out for if I'm now, you know, a nutritional information hunter, you know, in the store? What are some words I'm looking at for, you know, in the products that I'm going to be searching for?
So that's a great question. What are the natural sugar substitutes that can be found in some select processed foods, but also these are sugar substitutes that you can use at home? Honey is a big one, and obviously we have such incredible, gorgeous honey here in Zambia. And honey, it's a natural substance. It has those great enzymes in it, and it has a lot of good minerals in there. Things like iron and zinc and a lot of B vitamins as well. And it's antimicrobial. So there are a lot of health benefits with honey, but remember, it's still sugar. A tablespoon of honey would be equivalent to about 4.5 teaspoons of sugar. So don't think that you can just eat as much honey as you can. That will also spike your blood sugar, right? So go easy on it. If you're healthy, have a little bit in your tea or drizzle it on your oats in the morning. That's fine. But if you are diabetic, then honey is a no-no, just because it is still sugar and it will spike your blood sugar. Another one is stevia. I personally love stevia. It's a plant, and it's the leaves that are super, super sweet. And you can find stevia in the form of tablets, powder, even a liquid. And that is something that you can find at Umoyo in the Umoyo Health shops. But stevia, the great thing about stevia, it does not affect your blood sugar at all. Zero effect and 0 calories. And it is natural. Some people say, there's a little bit of an aftertaste. That's individual to individual. You have to try it and see if you like it or not. But that's a brilliant substitute. Another one would be xylitol. You might have heard xylitol. So xylitol is also a natural sweetener. It's made from bark, usually from birch bark. And it has 40% fewer calories than sugar. And it also doesn't influence your blood sugar as much as sugar. It has a much lower glycemic index, which basically indicates how quickly your blood hits your bloodstream, sugar hits your bloodstream. And it has a glycemic index of only 7 compared to sugar, which is like 60, 65, right? So xylitol is brilliant. Also xylitol, a lot of people don't realize this, but It's great for your dental health, helps prevent cavities. And that's why you see xylitol a lot in chewing gums. That's where maybe you've seen the word, right?
Okay.
But one thing, if you have pets, particularly if you have dogs, it's toxic to dogs, even in small quantities. So yeah, just be mindful of that. Otherwise, it's a great natural alternative as a sweetener.
Okay, all right. And then let's talk about artificial sweeteners as well.
Yeah, artificial sweeteners. These have been used a lot in like diet foods. You have things like aspartame, sucralose, saccharin. You might have heard some of these. Aspartame is probably the most famous one. That's what you find in diet soft drinks.
Okay.
But these are chemicals. These are not natural. And as such, they can have really negative effects on our health. One thing is that they have been shown through research to have a really negative effect on our digestive health. They cause inflammation in our digestive system, in our gut. And this is a real problem because remember, 70% of your immune system exists in your gut. Now you're causing inflammation there. It's going to have a very negative effect on your immune system. Also has been shown to cause glucose intolerance. So that's one thing. Another thing is, a lot of people, they take these artificial sweeteners or they use these diet version of products that have the artificial sweeteners because they're trying to lose weight, right? They're trying to reduce calories and lose weight. But research has shown when you take artificial sweeteners, most people, they get cravings for more food. It increases their appetite. They want more sweet things and they tend to gain more weight. Also, so it's actually linked. Artificial sweeteners are actually linked to weight gain. And then long-term effects, actually, they've been linked to type 2 diabetes. They've been linked to hypertension and heart disease, which are two reasons why you don't want to take sugar, but you're not solving the problem or helping yourself by taking the artificial sweeteners because they cause the same thing, right? So my advice, it would be to not take any diet foods that contain these artificial sweeteners, but rather choose the natural alternatives instead, things like stevia or xylitol or honey.
So if someone's listening today and they've been listening to our entire conversation and they're feeling a little bit overwhelmed because obviously most of us have bad sugar habits, what encouragement or what advice would you give them today?
Well, firstly, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to cut sugar out from your life like immediately, What I always say is what matters is what you do 80% of the time. So if you're celebrating your birthday, have that slice of chocolate cake. It's fine. The problem is that for a lot of people that, they cut sugar, they feel amazing, but then slowly it starts creeping in again, I'll have a flavored coffee. I'll have a muffin or some biscuits, and then we get a taste for sugar again. And before we know it, it's in our everyday life. So we got to be quite vigilant, but we don't have to be perfect, right? But we shouldn't fool ourselves. It is a poison. It is a poison, and it has real negative effects on our body. So the more we can reduce on it, the better it is going to be for our health.
Yeah, no, this was definitely an important conversation to have. Personally, I know I've learned quite a bit. We do have a couple of listeners all across the world that are listening right now. US, Brazil, as far as Germany, United Kingdom and Berlin, and also here in Zambia that are, obviously listening and being aware of our sugar intake and what it's doing to our bodies and how we need to do a little bit better to be able to ensure that we are healthy, not just because we want to live long, but because we want to live fulfilled lives as well, So thank you so much for that information.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
So Kim is going to be joining us next week, but at a different time. So do tune in for that one. It's going to be from 9 to 10 hours next week.